Hey everybody, it's Gypsy and welcome to my multi-dimensional life. So today's story, it happened, I would say about 20 years ago. Um, I think this is, I almost want to call it cryptid, but I don't think it falls under that category. I think it might be more apparition. I don't know. But anyways, it was a very hot summer night. We did not have air conditioning. And my younger son was about, I don't know, 6 or 7. My older son was 16 or 17. And just put my younger son to bed. My older son was in his bedroom. And of course, all the windows were open, because it was hot. We had no air conditioning. So I went out to the front stoop to enjoy the evening and have a cigarette and just sitting there enjoying the evening, relaxing. And we had this huge oak tree in our front yard. We lived in a different place at the time, and than I currently do. All of a sudden, I see someone peeking from behind the tree, and I did do a painting of this, and it was the introduction photo. I will insert the photo right here. So I must preface this by telling you, at that time, I I pretty much steered clear of anything in this category. I just tried to, okay, I see this stuff, I experience, get on with my life. And, I tried to keep myself as naive as possible about this kind of stuff. So I had no idea that who I just saw was very common for people like me to see. And I did not realize that he even actually had a name or two. It's the first time I'd ever seen him, as far as I can remember. And my experience is a bit different than most people that I have heard. I think I still belong to this group. These days, I just don't have the time to get online and do, support groups and stuff like that. But I belong to a group. It is people who are lifelong experiencers with the paranormal, extraterrestrials. I will get around to talking about that eventually. Anyways, years later, so this happened about 20 years ago, I would say 10 years ago, somewhere around there, that's when I found out that this is common to see this entity, and that he's typically called the Shadow Man or the Hat Man. I was shocked, and it looked, what I had found out, I think from this group, the sport group I'm in, and I saw pictures, and I'm going, that's exactly what I saw that night in my front yard. But anyway, so I'm sitting there enjoying the evening, relaxing. And there I see him. He's peeking out. Now, he had, the typical trench coat on and a fedora. Now my grandfather is from that era that always wore a fedora. Okay. I suppose it was like the 1920s. He's saying yes. But he always, for the rest of his life, wore a fedora. So that's how I remember my grandfather. So I would think that's my grandpa. But I knew it wasn't, because First of all, he and I were very, very close. Um, so I know his energy, what his energy feels like, his stature, everything. This was not my grandfather. It didn't even cross my mind that it could be. I just knew it wasn't anybody I knew. And I did not get, like most of the people who I hear who has had an encounter with the Shadow Man, did not get a good feeling about it. Felt that it was evil, etc. And most people, this is I'm surprised to hear, said he had red glowing eyes. No, this entity had the one that I had an encounter with, a very nice, calm energy. No red glowing eyes, nothing like that. And my painting is accurate of what I saw, what I experienced. And so yeah, the energy was very nice. Now, why it didn't occur to me at the time that I could communicate telepathically, I don't know. Probably because I was at that stage in my life where I tried to ignore this aspect of myself no matter how many encounters I had. You just stuff it and you just ignore it and pretend it didn't happen. Because I'm from the generation where you didn't talk about these kind of things. Relief that we do now. Anyways, I told the Shadow Man, I said, I'm sorry. I said, I really can't talk to you right now. I just put my younger son to bed. My older son is in his bedroom, and this is his window right here next to us, and his window's open. And I don't want him to hear me communicating with you. And the Shadow Man very, very politely looked at me. He didn't say anything telepathically or physically. I don't know how to word that. Because I can hear spirit. I can communicate mostly telepathically. A lot of times I'll hear with my physical ears. And if any of you have seen the first video, sometimes they even come up on recordings. But anyways, it just didn't occur to me. And he didn't say anything. When I told him my situation, he just looked at me and he nodded his head politely. And he went back behind the tree and he was gone. I've never heard from him or seen him again. And that was, like I said, about 20 years ago. I'm not sure exactly, but it was about 20 years ago. So that was my encounter with, at the time, I had no clue who he was. Very common entity to appear to people who are like me. Now, I will add, and I will probably get to this at some point. I'm going to try to keep the videos on the short side, which is hard because once I start talking about this stuff, I don't shut up. But at that time, I was having a lot of ET activity in my life, abduction kind of thing. And that's when he appeared to me. So I don't know if there's a connection there or not. And the fact that the topic came up without my prompting it, I think, in my support group for ET experiencers, makes me believe there might be a connection, but I'm not sure. If anybody knows the answer to that, please share in the comments below. So that's that story. I think I'm going to leave you with that. Blessed be, and make it a joy.